Private First Class James Walker stood in the village square trying not to show his discomfort while the Varani elder spoke through the interpreter. 8 months of brutal combat had led to this, liberation of a civilian settlement from insurgent forces. His unit had taken casualties, but they'd won. The locals were grateful, too grateful, apparently. The elder says they wish to honor the warriors who saved their people, the interpreter explained. According to Varani tradition, they are offering gifts to those who demonstrated the greatest courage. James's commanding officer accepted gracefully. We're honored by their gratitude. Please tell them we appreciate. The elder clapped his hands. Several young Varani women were brought forward from the gathered crowd. James felt his stomach drop. In our tradition, the interpreter continued, translating the elder's words, when warriors prove themselves in battle, they are given companions. These young women will serve the warriors, honor them, ensure their comfort and legacy. This is our highest honor. James exchanged glances with Martinez, who looked equally uncomfortable. This was some kind of slavery or forced marriage custom, dressed up as honoring warriors. His pulled him aside quickly. I know how this looks, but we can't refuse without causing major diplomatic damage. These people just endured months of insurgent occupation. Their gratitude is genuine, even if the expression is problematic. Accept gracefully. We'll sort out the details once we're back at base. So James stood there while a young Varani woman was presented to him. The interpreter gave her name, Sira. She was small, maybe 5'2" compared to his 6'1". Pale blue-gray skin, large dark eyes, delicate features. She wore simple clothing and kept her gaze fixed on the ground. And she was absolutely terrified. James could see her shaking. See how carefully she avoided looking at him. When the elder spoke to her in Varani, she flinched. The elder tells her she is honored to serve you, the interpreter said. She will be obedient and useful. She understands her duty. James wanted to refuse, wanted to explain this violated every principle he believed in. But his was giving him a look that said clearly, not here, not now. Thank the elder for the honor, James said quietly. The ceremony concluded. Sira was instructed to accompany James back to the military base. During the transport, a 3-hour flight in a military shuttle, Sira sat as far from James as physically possible. She pressed herself against the wall, made herself small, and stared at the floor. James tried to talk to her. Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. She flinched at his voice but didn't respond. He tried a few more times. Each attempt just made her tremble harder. Martinez, sitting nearby, shook his head. She doesn't speak English, man, and I don't think she's just scared of the situation. She's scared of you specifically. Why? I haven't done anything to her. You're human. That means something to her. Nothing good based on her reaction. When they arrived at base and James took Sira to his quarters, her terror intensified. The moment the door closed behind them, she backed into the farthest corner and made herself as small as possible. Her large, dark eyes were fixed on him, wide with absolute fear. Hey, it's okay, James said gently, keeping his distance. You're safe here. I'm not going to hurt you. No response, just trembling and those terrified eyes. James didn't know what to do. He wasn't a diplomat or a cultural expert. He was a soldier who'd been given a person, a terrified person who clearly didn't want to be here. He spent the evening trying to make her comfortable. Brought her food and water, set them near her but not close enough to be threatening. She wouldn't touch either while he was in the room. You need to eat. You haven't eaten all day. Sira made a small sound, maybe a word in Varani, maybe just a whimper. James left the quarters for an hour, hoping she'd eat if he wasn't there. When he returned, the food was untouched. That night he made himself a bed on the floor near the door. You take the bed. I'll sleep here. You're safe. I promise. Sira didn't move from her corner. Eventually, exhaustion overtook her and she fell asleep there, curled into a tight ball. James lay awake, wondering how the hell he was supposed to handle this situation. The next morning, Martinez came by before duty. He spoke some Varani, had picked up the language during the deployment. Can you ask her why she's so scared? James said. I'm trying to help her, but she won't even look at me. Martinez crouched at a distance from Sira and spoke gently in Varani. She responded in whispers, barely audible. As she spoke, Martinez's expression changed. When she finished, he stood up and walked James outside the room. "What did she say?" Martinez looked disturbed. "She thinks you're going to eat her." James stared. "What?" "She says she's been told stories about humans since she was a child. That humans are monsters, savage predators, that we literally eat other species. She thinks that's why she was given to you as food. She thinks you're going to kill and eat her." James felt sick. "That's insane. Why would they give her to me if they thought I'd eat her?" "I don't know, maybe they think it's a sacrifice. Maybe they believe offering you a victim will protect the rest of the village. I don't understand their culture fully. But she genuinely believes you're going to devour her, man. That's why she's so terrified." James looked back through the doorway at Sira, still pressed into her corner, and felt a wave of horror and pity. She wasn't here as a servant or companion. She was here because she thought she'd been given a death sentence. "Tell her I'm not going to eat her. Tell her I'm not going to hurt her in any way. Tell her she's safe." Martinez went back in and translated. Sira's response was immediate and desperate. Martinez translated. "She says you're lying. That monsters always lie before they attack. That humans pretend to be kind and then devour their prey. She says the stories warn about this, about humans who smile while they plan to kill." James ran a hand through his hair, frustrated and heartbroken. "How do I prove I'm not going to hurt her?" "Time, actions, show her. She's been taught these myths her entire life. One conversation won't override years of cultural programming." Martinez left for duty. James stood in his quarters with a terrified young woman who thought he was a literal monster. He had absolutely no idea how to fix this. The first week was brutal. Sira wouldn't eat in front of James, wouldn't sleep when he was in the room, wouldn't accept anything directly from his hands. He left food for her and stepped out. When he returned, sometimes she'd eaten, sometimes not. He spoke to her gently even though she clearly didn't understand, maintained distance, never made sudden movements, tried to be as non-threatening as humanly possible. She watched him constantly with those large, dark eyes, like a prey animal watching a predator, waiting for the inevitable attack. Other soldiers noticed. Some made jokes. Walker's got a pet alien who thinks he's a monster. James shut that down fast. On the 8th day, something small changed. James was cleaning his weapons, routine maintenance. Sira was in her usual spot, watching him warily. He cut his hand on a sharp edge. Nothing serious, just enough to bleed. "Damn it," he muttered, reaching for the first aid kit. Sira made a sound, not quite a word, more like a distressed noise. James looked up. She was staring at his bleeding hand with an expression he couldn't read. "It's okay," he said, showing her the first aid kit. "Just a small cut. I'm fine." He cleaned and bandaged the wound while she watched intently. That evening, when he brought her dinner, something was different. She was still afraid, but the quality of the fear had shifted somehow. And then she spoke. In broken, heavily accented English. "You bleed, you hurt." James was startled. "You speak English?" "Little. Varani woman on base, teach me words." "Yes, I bled earlier, it's just a small injury, it's fine now." Sira struggled with the words. "Monsters not, bleed. In stories, humans not bleed, they not. Feel pain, they not die, they just kill." James understood suddenly. The myth she'd been taught portrayed humans as supernatural monsters, unkillable, unfeeling, inhuman. But she'd seen him bleed, seen him feel pain, seen evidence that contradicted the mythology. "I'm human, but I'm still a person. I bleed. I feel pain. I can be hurt. I'm not a supernatural monster. I never was." Sira processed this slowly. Over the following days, she started speaking more, always in broken English, struggling with grammar, but trying. She asked questions, simple ones at first. "Why you not eat me?" "Because humans don't eat people." "That's not what we do. The stories you were told are completely wrong." "But stories say—" "Stories lie sometimes, especially when they're meant to scare people or control them. Humans fight in wars. We can be violent. But we don't eat people. That's not real. It never was." Sira was processing years of cultural indoctrination. It was clearly difficult. 2 weeks after she arrived, she asked a harder question. "Elder in village." He say I given to you as gift, for honor, but also. She struggled for words. He say I sacrifice, for protection. He say if I please you, you not hurt village. I think that mean, you eat me, then leave village alone. But you not eat me, so, why? James felt rage at the village elder, followed immediately by overwhelming sadness. They'd sacrificed her, given her to what they thought was a monster, hoping it would satisfy him and protect everyone else. I don't know why the elder did that, but I'm not going to hurt you. You're not a sacrifice, you're a person who deserves safety and respect. But I am gift. You own me now, that is tradition. I don't want to own anyone. In my culture, people can't own other people. That's fundamentally wrong. But elders say, the elder's tradition is different from my values. I respect that he was trying to honor me according to his culture. But I reject the part where you belong to me like property. You're your own person. This concept clearly confused her. Her culture had rigid hierarchies and traditions around ownership and obligation. The idea that James would refuse ownership didn't fit her worldview. Over the following weeks, things gradually improved. Sira became less afraid, started moving around the quarters freely, started helping with small tasks, not because she had to, but because she wanted to contribute. Her English improved rapidly. Within a month, she could hold basic conversations. Other soldiers noticed the change. Martinez commented one day, "She's not terrified anymore. That's real progress. She's still processing a lot, still doesn't fully trust that I won't suddenly become the monster she was taught about, but we're getting there. You handled this better than most would have. A lot of guys would have either sent her back immediately or taken advantage of the situation. You did right. I'm just treating her like a human being. That shouldn't be remarkable. In this situation, it kind of is." 6 weeks after Sira arrived, James came back to quarters after a long day to find her crying. He stopped at the door. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" She looked up, tears on her blue-gray cheeks. "I speak today with other Varani, women who work in mess hall. She tell me, stories about humans, all lies. She say humans good, kind. She work with humans 5 years, never hurt, never eat, just normal people. That's true. My whole life, I taught humans are monsters, evil, dangerous. I taught to fear. When elder give me to you, I so scared I want to die. Better die quick than be eaten slowly. I wait for you to hurt me. Every day I wait. But you never do, you just, kind, give me food, give me safety, give me choice. And now I learn, everything I taught was lie, my whole life based on lies." She was sobbing now. "I so angry at elder who give me away. Angry at stories, angry at people who make me believe lies, but also," she looked at him, "also grateful you show me truth, grateful you not the monster, grateful you save me from lies." James sat down at a careful distance. "I'm sorry you were taught those things, and I'm sorry you've been so afraid, but I'm glad you know the truth now." "Me too, but what I do now, I cannot go home. Village believe lies. They give me away because they afraid. If I go back, elder just give me to someone else. Maybe someone who not, kind like you. What do you want to do?" Sira looked at him with those large, dark eyes. "I want to be safe. With you, I learn what safe means. You not hurt me, you not use me, you treat me like person. I never have that before. I want keep having that." 3 months after Sira arrived, James received orders. His unit was rotating back to human space for rest and refit. He'd be leaving in 2 weeks. This created a problem he'd been avoiding thinking about. He sat down with Sira to discuss it. Her English was fluent now. "I need to talk to you about something important. My military unit is leaving soon. Going back to our home systems. I need to know what you want to do." Sira looked worried. "You leave, go away." "Yes, but I want to know what you want. Do you want to go back to your village? Stay here on the base? Come with me to human space? It's your choice." "If I go back to village," Sira's voice was quiet, "elder will give me to someone else. Maybe to warrior. Maybe to someone who will not, be kind. I know how this works now. I know what I was property. Gift. Thing to be given away. You first person who not treat me like thing. If I go back, I become thing again." "What do you want?" "I want to be safe. With you, I learn I can be safe. You never hurt me, never use me. You give me choice. I never have that before anywhere. In village, I always told I exist to serve warriors, to honor them, to accept whatever they decide. But you not do that. You give me choice. I want keep having choice. So you want to come with me to human space? If you allow, if it not, burden. You're not a burden. But you need to understand what that means. Human space is very different from here. Different culture, different rules, different everything. You'd be far from your home planet, far from other Varani. It might be hard. Here is hard too. Every day I wake up and part of me still afraid. Still think maybe today you become the monster from stories. But then you not. You never are. Maybe in human space, I finally learned to not be afraid. Learn that all stories were lies. Learn what it means to be actually safe. James made his decision. Okay, you can come with me, but we need to make something absolutely clear. You're not my property. You're not my servant. You're not obligated to me in any way. If you come with me, it's as someone I'm helping get to safety and build a life. That's it. Nothing more. Do you understand? I understand. I thank you. The paperwork was complicated. James had to process Sira as a refugee seeking asylum in human space. Had to document that she couldn't safely return to her home planet due to cultural practices that violated human rights standards. It took bureaucratic wrangling, but it was doable. When they left Varath III, Sira was nervous but excited. She'd never been off-world before. The journey to human space took 3 weeks. During that time, Sira experienced human culture properly for the first time. She saw humans of all types, soldiers, civilians, families, children. Saw humans being kind to each other, being gentle with children, being utterly normal people rather than monsters. There are so many humans, she said one day, watching families in the ship's common area. And they not kill, not eat, they just live like normal people, have families, have children, play games, they boring. James laughed. We're very boring. That's what most species are when you actually get to know them. Just normal people living normal lives. Stories make you sound like demons, like nightmare creatures, but you just people. Boring people who eat boring food and do boring jobs and play boring games with children. That's exactly what we are. I was taught lies my whole life. Everything I believe about humans was wrong. I am angry about that. But also grateful. Grateful you showed me truth. Grateful I get to see boring humans being boring. When they arrived at the human colony where James was stationed for his rest period, Sira was overwhelmed. Cities. Skyscrapers, millions of humans living together peacefully. Technology everywhere. Parks, shops, restaurants, children playing. It contradicted everything she'd been taught. James helped her get settled. Found her housing in a section of the colony that had good support services for refugees. Helped her enroll in language classes. She spoke English well, but needed formal education. Got her connected with social workers who specialized in helping refugees adapt to human society. Sira thrived. She was intelligent and adaptable. Within 6 months, she was completely fluent in English. Had a job working in a botanical research center. Turned out Varani had natural aptitude for plant genetics, and human agricultural companies valued that skill set. She made friends. Both humans and other aliens, refugees from various species who'd found safety in human space. She built a life that was entirely her own. James checked in regularly. They'd become friends. Real friends. Not romantic, too much complicated history and power differential for that, but genuine friendship. One day, about a year after they'd arrived in human space, Sira came to James's apartment with a serious expression. I want to go back to Varath III. James was surprised. Why? I thought you said you couldn't go back safely. Not to stay, to visit, to talk to other Varani, to tell them the truth about humans. So they not raise their children with the same lies I was taught. So other young women not have to be as afraid as I was. That could be dangerous. Your people might not react well to you contradicting their sacred beliefs. I know. But I have to try. I was saved from the lies. I want to save others too. You showed me that one person can make difference. You changed my whole life just by being kind when you could have been cruel. Maybe I can change someone else's life by being truthful when it would be easier to stay silent. James helped her arrange it. She went through proper diplomatic channels, got permission to visit her home planet as a cultural liaison. 6 months later, Sira returned to her village. She spoke to the people there, especially the young women, about her experience. "I was given to a human warrior as a gift," she told them in their native language. "I thought I would die. I thought he would eat me, torture me, destroy me. That is what we are taught about humans, but none of it was true. He was kind. He protected me. He gave me choice when I had never had choice before. He treated me like a person when I had been taught I was nothing but property and prey. Everything we believe about humans is a lie. They are not monsters. They are people, just people. And they showed me more kindness and gave me more freedom than I ever received from my own people." The village's reaction was mixed. Some were angry at her for contradicting sacred beliefs. Some dismissed her as corrupted by human influence. But some, especially young women, listened carefully, saw in her words a different possible future than the one they'd been taught to expect. Sira's advocacy work grew. She became a voice for Varani women trapped in traditional systems, worked to connect Varani refugees with human support organizations, became a bridge between her people and humanity. Years later, historians studying human-Varani relations would identify Sira as a pivotal figure in breaking down cultural barriers between the species. But Sira herself always credited James. "He didn't save me with weapons or power," she said in an interview 10 years after their first meeting. "He saved me with patience and kindness. He showed me that the greatest strength is not in dominating others when you have power over them, but in treating them with dignity and respect when you could destroy them. That is humanity's true power, not their weapons, not their technology, their ability to be kind when they could be cruel, to break cycles of fear and violence through simple compassion, to see a terrified person and choose to help rather than to hurt. That is what changed my life. That is what changed how I see the universe. And that is what will eventually change the galaxy, one act of unexpected kindness at a time." 5 years after Sira first arrived in human space, James attended a conference on interspecies cultural integration. He'd been asked to speak about his experience as a case study in successful refugee support. He was nervous. Public speaking wasn't his strength. He was a soldier, not a diplomat or a speaker, but Sira had asked him to do it. "Your story matters," she'd said. "People need to hear it from you. From the human who chose kindness when cruelty would have been easier. Your voice matters." So he stood at the podium in front of hundreds of diplomats, researchers, and military personnel from dozens of species. "My name is James Walker. 5 years ago, I was given a person as a gift. That's not a sentence I ever thought I'd say, but that's what happened." He told the story, how Sira had been presented to him, how terrified she'd been, how she'd believed he was literally going to eat her because that's what her culture had taught her about humans. I could have sent her back to her village, could have refused the gift entirely. But I knew that would just mean she'd be given to someone else, maybe someone who would actually treat her as property. I could have accepted her as a servant, could have used her the way her culture expected. She'd been taught that was her role. She wouldn't have resisted. But that would have been wrong, fundamentally wrong by my values. So I did the only thing that made sense to me. I treated her like a person, fed her, gave her safety, gave her space, gave her choice, just basic human decency. And slowly, very slowly, she learned that the stories she'd been taught about humans were lies, that we weren't monsters, just people. People who could choose to be kind even when we had power over someone vulnerable. The reason I'm telling this story is because it's not really about me. It's about the power of compassion to break cycles of fear. Sira's people had been taught for generations that humans were savage predators. One person being kind to her couldn't erase all that cultural programming immediately, but it started the process. And now, 5 years later, Sira is working to help other Varani women escape traditional systems that treat them as property. She's a bridge between our species. She's changing minds and changing lives. That all started because I chose to be kind when I had power over someone vulnerable. That's not heroic. That should be baseline behavior. But apparently it's rare enough that it matters. So my message to anyone working in interspecies relations is this: your kindness matters. Your choices matter. When you have power over someone vulnerable, whether through military force, cultural authority, economic leverage, whatever, how you use that power defines not just your character, but your species' reputation. Humans are known in the galaxy for a lot of things: our military capabilities, our technological innovation, our stubborn refusal to accept defeat, but I hope we'll also be known for this. When given power over the vulnerable, we chose compassion over cruelty. We chose to break cycles of fear rather than perpetuate them. That's what humanity can be at our best. That's what we should aspire to, not dominance, not conquest, just basic decency toward those who have no power to defend themselves. If we can be that consistently, we'll do more to shape the galaxy than any weapon or technology ever could. He finished speaking. The room was silent for a moment. Then applause, genuine, sustained applause from the hundreds of beings present. After the session, he was approached by dozens of people wanting to discuss his experience. Diplomats interested in cultural integration, researchers studying trauma recovery, military personnel dealing with similar situations, and Sira found him in the crowd. "You did good," she said, smiling. "You told truth. That matters." "I just told what happened. You're the one doing the actual important work." "We both do important work. You showed me humans can be kind. I show other Varani that humans are kind. Neither of us can do it alone. We need both parts. When you first arrived, you thought I was going to eat you. Now you're here at an interspecies conference talking about cultural bridge building. That's a hell of a journey." "It is. And it started because you saw a terrified person and chose to help instead of hurt. That one choice changed my entire life. Changed hundreds of other Varani lives because of my work. Maybe we'll change thousands more. That is power of one-kind choice." James thought about that. "I never intended to change anything. I just didn't want you to be afraid. That is exactly why it worked. You're not trying to save me or fix me or use me. You just kind. No agenda. No calculation. Just basic human compassion. That is most powerful thing there is, kindness without expectation of return. That is what breaks cycles, what changes worlds." 10 years after that initial meeting in the Varani village, Sira published a book about her experience. It became required reading in human military cultural training programs and in Varani schools willing to challenge traditional narratives. The book's dedication read, "To James Walker, who taught me that monsters are made of lies and humans are made of choices. Thank you for choosing kindness when cruelty would have been easier. You changed more than just my life." 20 years after their first meeting, James, now retired from military service, attended a ceremony on Varath III. The Varani government was formally apologizing for the cultural practices that had treated women as property to be gifted to warriors. Sira spoke at the ceremony as a representative of the reform movement. "For generations, we taught our children that humans were monsters. We told stories meant to frighten, meant to control, meant to justify treating our own people as property to be sacrificed to those monsters. But the real monsters were never humans. The real monsters were the lies we told, the fear we cultivated, the systems we built on those lies and that fear. One human soldier showed me the truth. That kindness is stronger than fear. That compassion breaks cycles of violence. That seeing someone as a person rather than as property or prey is a choice, and it's the most important choice any of us ever makes. Today, we apologize to the women who were given away as property. We apologize to our children for teaching them lies. And we thank the humans who showed us a better way, not through conquest or force, but through simple, consistent kindness toward those who had been taught to fear them. That is the lesson we must never forget. The greatest power is not the power to destroy or dominate. It is the power to be kind when you could be cruel, to see a person where others see property or prey, to break cycles rather than perpetuate them. That is humanity's gift to the galaxy, and it is a gift we must learn to give to each other. James stood in the audience, tears in his eyes, watching a woman he'd once found cowering in terror now addressing thousands of her people about the power of compassion. Later, Sira found him. "Thank you for coming. I know this long journey for you. I wouldn't miss it. You've done amazing things. We both did. I broke cycles. You showed me it was possible. Neither of us alone, both together. Do you ever think about that first day, when you thought I was going to eat you? Sira laughed. All the time, I think about how wrong I was, how terrified, how certain I would die. And then I think about how you just, kind. How you gave me food and space and choice. How you treated me like person when I had been taught I was just property. That changed everything. One human choosing kindness changed my life, changed hundreds of other lives,